The cold had no mercy on Nora and her infant. Snow fell in blinding sheets across the white deserts of Aetheris Prime, burying the wreck of their escaped shuttle deeper with each passing hour. The sky was a swirl of silver stormlight, the air so sharp it burned the lungs. Nora, once a navigator of the Seraphim fleet, now clutched her child at her chest beneath the broken hull, her last shield against the freezing wind. Her suit's power cells were gone. The ship's beacon had shattered in the crash. She had screamed for help until her voice turned to whispers. No one came. The baby whimpered softly, its breath shallow. Nora's heart clenched. The child, so small and fragile, barely 3 lunar cycles old, stirred against her chest. She brushed the frost from its delicate features and whispered through chattering teeth, "Sleep, little one, just sleep." The storm howled back in answer. She tightened her arms around her child and felt her own strength slipping. The bitter chill seeped through every layer of her suit. She could no longer feel her fingers. The world blurred. Her last thought before the dark took her was of warmth, the memory of sunlight on her home world, and of her child's laughter that had never yet had a chance to begin. Then, silence. When consciousness returned, it was pain that greeted her first, searing warmth against skin that had forgotten how to feel. Nora gasped, convulsing, air rushing into her lungs like fire. Something heavy lay across her. No, someone, a weight that radiated heat. Her eyes fluttered open. Above her was a face she had never seen before. Human, male, his expression taut with focus. His breath came in clouds as he pressed closer, his arms wrapped around her and the child she still clutched. The faint glow of a thermal coil burned near them, flickering weakly but steady enough to chase the frost from her hair. "Easy," he said, his voice muffled through his cracked visor. "You're safe." Nora tried to speak, but her throat failed her. He adjusted his body, shielding her further from a wind that cut through the torn fuselage. His suit was patched, older than any she'd seen, an old Terra model, scavenged and worn. The logo of a long-forgotten mining colony was etched into the shoulder plate. "Found you half-frozen," he murmured, tightening his cloak around the mole. "Didn't think anyone was still alive out here." The child stirred, letting out a soft, broken cry. The man's eyes widened. "There's a baby." Nora nodded weakly. My son." He checked the small bundle quickly, relief flooding his face when the child moved. "He's alive. You're both alive." She blinked, confusion cutting through the haze. Why help us?" He looked at her then, not like she was alien, not like she was something to fear, but simply as another soul on the edge of death. Because someone should. His name was Eli Kane, a prospector stranded on Aetheris Prime after a failed expedition. His crew had died months ago, leaving him to wander the frozen waste with dwindling supplies. When his scanners had picked up the faint energy signature of Nora's wreck, he hadn't expected survivors. "But something made me check," he told her as he repaired her heating rig days later. "Guess I just couldn't ignore it." He set up a small shelter within the shuttle's remains, patching cracks and jury-rigging power from salvaged cells. Each day, he hunted for heat sources and fragments of food buried in the snowdrifts. Nora regained strength slowly, her alien physiology adapting to the meager warmth. Her skin, faintly luminescent beneath the frost, began to glow again with color. Eli had never seen anyone like her before. She was slender, tall, with pale crystalline hair that shimmered faintly in the dim light. Her eyes, iridescent blue, reflected more emotion than words could ever express. Though their languages were different, his translator patched together enough of them to communicate. Nora explained that her people were refugees. Their home star had collapsed into a white dwarf, leaving their species adrift. They had been searching for a new world when pirates attacked their convoy. She had taken an escape pod with her newborn child and fled toward this barren planet. It was supposed to be temporary shelter, she said quietly, her gaze distant. But the cold was endless. I knew I would not last. Eli looked at the child asleep in her arms. He wouldn't have lasted either. Her lips trembled. No, that's why I gave him all the heat I had left. I thought better to freeze together than let him die alone. Eli turned toward the small fire they'd built. You didn't die. Not yet. Days turned into weeks. The storm outside never truly stopped. Sometimes a whisper, sometimes a roar. But within their makeshift refuge, life persisted. Eli had managed to restore partial power to the pod, giving them light and warmth. He taught Nora to use his tools, and in return, she taught him about the constellations of people followed across galaxies, maps traced in the language of dying stars. At night, while the babies slept wrapped between them for warmth, they spoke softly, sharing fragments of their lives. Eli told her of Earth, its oceans and rains, its crowded cities and music. Nora spoke of Zephyrion, a home world where shimmered with silver pollen, and children learned to sing before they spoke. Sometimes, when the nights were too cold and even the heater's glow faltered, she would rest her head against his chest, feeling the rhythm of his heart. It was unlike anything she had ever known, steady, grounding. The warmth of him was more than physical. It was something that reached into the hollowed-out ache of her soul. You risk much for strangers, she said one evening, her voice soft. Why? Eli smiled faintly. Maybe because I've been one too long. But survival was fragile. Their energy cells were failing. The storm had swallowed the horizon whole, and rations were running thin. When Eli went scavenging one morning, he didn't return by nightfall. Nora paced the shelter, heart pounding. The wind outside howled like a beast. She bundled the baby in layers of cloth and stepped into the storm. The cold struck like knives. Snow blinded her as she stumbled through the drifts, calling out his name. Hours passed. Her strength faltered. Then, through the blizzard, she saw it, a faint flicker of orange. She found Eli half buried near a collapsed supply module, one leg pinned under debris. His face was pale, his breath shallow. Eli, she cried, rushing to dig him free. He stirred weakly. Nora, I thought I'd. Don't speak, she ordered, voice trembling as she pulled him close. The child whimpered between them. You saved us once. Now it's my town. She carried him back through the storm, step by agonizing step. By the time they reached the pod, her arms burned, her vision fading. She set him near the heater, stripped the last thermal cell from her suit, and pressed it to his chest. You'll freeze, he whispered. I already have, she replied faintly. Let this warmth be enough. When the darkness claimed her again, she held her child close, and the memory of his heartbeat beside her. She awoke to the scent of smoke and heat. Eli sat beside her, his face streaked with tears and frost. The baby slept soundly in his arms. You nearly didn't make it, he said hoarsely. You gave up your heat again. I didn't know how to save you. But you did, she murmured, voice barely audible. He looked down at his trembling hands. I wrapped all three of us together.